In this video, we'll be looking into the important concepts of first module, that is why Agile of Agile methodology subject. So before moving on to understanding the terminologies and what Agile is, what is the manifesto, we should understand how it emerged, what were the causes for Agile to emerge in this particular industry. So starting from the historical context, so it emerged as a response to the limitations and challenges which were posed by the software development approaches, especially the waterfall method. So we know that waterfall model is a classic model which has been used used from the late 90s. But then we also know waterfall method comprises of requirement analysis, system design, code, test, deployment, and maintenance. These are all the phases of waterfall method. So this is like a sequential approach, and it follows a linear pattern. That is, if I'm in the coding stage and certain changes have to be done in the design part, I cannot redo it. That is, I have to complete till from coding, I have to test it, deploy it, and then maintenance it. After doing this, again I can get back to requirement analysis, system design, and then do the changes in the system design. So this was the drawback, right? So it had limited customer involvement. That is, the customers were only involved when the final deployment was ready. But then this is not feasible, right? It was rigidity and inflexibility, again, as I discussed. In coding part or in the design part, if I have to change any particular functionality or add up any new functionality, I cannot do it in the waterfall method. So this is rigid and inflexible. Then we have late discovery of problems. That is, when I'm deploying it, I realize that there are some drawbacks with the system compatibility. In this case, I cannot change it here itself. That is, I have to again get back to analysis part, look what user had told, look what I understood, and then do the system designing part according to the software requirements, the system requirements, and then write the code accordingly, test that code, again deploy it. And after deploying also, I'm not sure if the errors will disappear or not, right? So this is late discovery of problems. Then I have assumption of perfect requirements. So when we start our first process, that is requirement analysis, we tend to understand that the requirements provided by the user are perfect. So after taking those requirements, I need not get back only. I can finish the project in one go, and then at later stages I can get back to the customer. But this is not true, right? So once the customer has given a set of instructions, a set of requirements, after a week or a month, he might come again and he'll be like, okay, do this changes in whatever I have told earlier. So again, in that situation, it is not feasible for us to do the changes then and there itself. So all these drawbacks led to emergence of Agile methodology. So looking at what Agile is, so project management and software development approach that emphasizes flexibility, collaboration, customer satisfaction, and iterative progress. So we have studied all this in software development. It holds the same here also. Agile methodologies prioritize adaptive planning and early development and continuous improvement. So Agile makes sure that the development is happening at a rapid phase, and then with each increment, with each functionality being developed, it is given to the user or the stakeholder, and then we take the feedback accordingly and then perform our changes further. So Agile contracts with the traditional methods by allowing teams to respond to the changes and feedback throughout the development lifecycle. That is, even at the deployment part, if the user says, okay, I don't want this, change this, then Agile can accommodate this and perform the changes or do the changes as per the requirements told by the customer. Many leading companies adapt to this methodology. Yes. In 2001, a group of software experts dissatisfied with the traditional methods came up with a manifesto that would resolve and redefine the software development practices. So this manifesto is called as Agile Manifesto. So looking at the Agile Manifesto, it serves as a transformative guide for software developers, emphasizing agility and responsiveness. So looking at the manifesto now, the first point we have is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So we have to emphasize on individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We need not emphasize on what processes or what tools are being used, but then speaking with the customers, having a conversation with the customers is what matters the most. Then we have working software over comprehensive documentation. Documentation is definitely very useful, but then excessive documentation is of no use when the working software is not present at all. So when you present a working software, it becomes easier for the stakeholder to understand that we have done so and so and so progress with our project. Then we have customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So we know contract negotiation is one of the main key aspects of requirement engineering, but then we should not overemphasize on this such that the relationship with our customer is somewhat damaged. Okay, so we should emphasize more on customer collaboration rather than contract negotiation. Then we have response to the change over following a plan. So we should not be rigid and inflexible when the requirements are being updated by the user. That is, we should welcome such changes and be ready to apply it. Okay, so these are the Agile manifestos. They can ask for 5 marks. So moving on further, we have Agile methods here. So these are all the popular Agile methods. So first one we have is Scrum. So Scrum focuses on developing work in sprints, and there's a Scrum Master, product owner, and all of that. Then we have Kanban. Kanban visualizes the workflow on a board, managing how the work is in progress, and we understand its efficiency that way. Then we have Extreme Programming. Extreme Programming is XP, so XP will be studying it further. Then we have Lean Software Development. Lean Software Development aims to neglect or eliminate whatever the waste is happening, whatever the processes are producing waste, and then make the delivery faster. Then you have Crystal. So depending on a type of project which you are taking up, the Crystal and the scenario or the criticality also varies. We have studied this in software development. Then we have feature driven development. That is, the delivery happens based on the feature. So as and when a new feature is added to our project, it will be delivered to the user, and then respectively feedback would be taken. Then we have dynamic system development method. Dynamic system development provides a framework for building and maintaining systems. So this can focus on like the full project life cycle. Okay, so Agile methods are a set of practices and frameworks that are designed to enable adaptive planning, continuous improvement, all of which encourage flexible, responsible to changes. So Agile methods break down tasks into smaller, manageable iterations, allowing the teams to deliver functional software frequency and adapt to the changes properly. So that's what we have spoken about inflexibility, right? So Agile overcomes this inflexibility by breaking down the task into smaller and manageable iterations. So the entire project is broken down into tiny iterations. So once you do this particular iteration, you take a feedback from the user and then perform or rework on it again. So if it is proper, you move on to the other iteration. So Agile methods comprise of individual practices, each aim to foster agility within the development process. So under the development processes, we have all these points. So the first one is version control. So Agile makes use of version control, in which it provides a centralized platform for us to share the code. Suppose if I'm working on the first part of a code and you are developing the second functionality of a code, my code should be accessible to you, or any changes in my code you can do it. So for doing this, there has to be a platform, right? So version control is that particular platform. Then we have the coding standards. That is, I am developing the code in C and you're developing the code in Java. So of course there's a difference, right? So Agile makes sure that whatever the team is working on a project is following certain coding standards. These standards are generalized, and it has to be followed by all the software companies. Then we have weekly demos. Weekly demos or iteration demos are helpful for expressing whatever the progress we have done in our particular project in that entire week. So by doing this, even the stakeholders will get to know what our software team is working upon, how much have they reached the success part, or what were the errors which they came up with and how did they solve them, and all of that. Then we have user stories. User stories are it is like a sequential description of the entire scenario. So by making use of user stories, we can understand what the problem was, and what are the different possibilities through which we can solve it. Then we have pair programming. Pair programming is a practice where two developers sit together and work. One could be writing the code, other one could be testing the code. That is driver navigator scenario. We'll study this further. Then we have is continuous integration. So a practice where code changes are integrated into the main database frequently. That is followed by automation testing to detect if there are any issues at the earliest stage itself. Then we have caution against creating custom agile methods. So we might think that understanding all these points, I can come up with my own agile method, right? But then that's not true. So agile development is deeply rooted to the principles. So without an understanding of these principles, we cannot customize the practices, as a newcomer may lead to ineffective results. So if I'm new to the entire scenario and I came across all these methods, and I'll be like, let me create my own method I will skip the parts which are not necessary and I can come up. But then this is not true. We have to follow, we have to obey the agile principles. And if you are a new company or someone new to the agile methodology or agile practices, we can follow these steps. So we can start with a well-established model. So the well-established model, the best one example could be XP. So we can start with XP or Scrum to gain experience with the how it works. Then we have refactor iteratively. Iteratively means we have to apply the chosen agile method, observe how effective it is, and then slightly start making changes depending on the feedback which we are taking from the stakeholder. Along with that, even the team's feedback also matters a lot here. Then we have the tailor the approach. That is, again, depending on the specific needs of the project or whatever your team says, you can tailor the requirements or the changes. Okay, so this is how we need to proceed with the agile methods if you are starting it for the first time. Moving on further, we have the agile principles. Agile principles, again guys, this is a pretty important topic. It could be asked for 10 marks. So make sure that you know all the 12 principles properly. I've just written down the main heading here. Make sure you explain this in 2 or 3 lines, okay? So the first one is customer satisfaction through early and continuous delivery. So Agile makes sure that customer satisfaction is met through early and continuous delivery. So as and when we are developing a product or a particular functionality, we have to give it to the user. So by giving it to the user, we take feedback from the user and then perform the changes accordingly. So as and when we are giving as and when we are giving the updates to the user, no user would be satisfied, user would be happy, or he might think, yeah, the team is working on something, and he'll assume. Next, we have welcome the changing requirements at any stage of development. That is, as we discussed, Agile makes sure that whatever changes at any stage of the development is welcomed. So we have to make sure that these changes are accommodated in our particular project, and then we work accordingly further. Then we have deliver working software frequently. That is, again, so as and when we give working software over excessive documentation, it provides a sense of trust among the stakeholders. They'll be like, okay, the team is working. Not just the stakeholders, even the project manager or the higher authorities will get a clarity of what their team is working upon. So that's why delivering the working software is important, and it has to happen on a regular basis. Then collaboration between the software stakeholders and developers. So there has to be interaction or collaboration between the stakeholders as well as the developers. As and when the stakeholders are providing the inputs to the developers, they can take those inputs and then work accordingly. So this is again important. Then we have built project around motivated individuals. So when you're working around motivated individuals, you have the sense of responsibility. You are like, okay, we have to do this particular project, we have to achieve, right? So that's why you have to make sure that the people among your team are motivated. Then you have face-to-face communication is the most effective way. So when I have to communicate or transfer a particular knowledge to the stakeholder or to the customer, it is best in case of face-to-face communication. So when you're having a face-to-face communication with the stakeholder, you can understand what his or her mentality is and what sort of statements or wordings to use in order to make sure that they understand it properly. So communication, face-to-face communication is the most effective one. Then in order to measure the progress, our working software is the primary measure, right? So if you produce a working software, the team or the manager would be like, okay, the developers are working on something, they have reached to a certain extent or to a certain level of progress. And we have maintained sustainable pace at work. So it is very important to have a sustainable pace at work, which makes sure that all the employees are working, all the employees are on same pace. So by having the same pace, you may not feel like the employees may not feel like left behind, or they may not get burdened. Okay. Then we have continuous attention to technical excellence and good design. So whenever working on a project, by applying the Agile principles, our highest priority should be the technical excellence and good design. So good design cannot be complex design, but then good design is in terms of the quality, correctness and compatibility. Technical excellence means it has to, the software whichever we are coming up with should be viable, should be worthy in the market. Okay, should have all high standards of technicality. Then you have simplicity. Simplicity is the art of maximizing the amount of work not done. So we have to make sure that whatever we are working on should be simplified, not simple. Okay. Moving on further, self-organizing teams. While a team applies or incorporates Agile in their practice, they come up with a terminology called as self-organizing teams, in which there is flexibility for the team, for the people around working in the employees, working in the company, the employees, to organize the team according to themselves or allot the task according to themselves and work towards completion. So when you're working in same mentality or same mindset of people, it becomes easy for you to communicate. And when you're communicating freely, when you're making sure that your ideas are put forth properly, you can reach the success easily. Then you have regular reflection on team's effectiveness. So by having weekly demos and following other retrospectives and all, you can make sure that the team's effectiveness is being evaluated. And one thing, it is very important for a team to be togetherness is very important in a team, because it helps for overall growth of the company, overall completion of a project, as well as personal growth. That was about the Agile principles. Moving on further, we have a topic called as understanding the success. So traditionally, project success has been divided by the three criteria here. That is, one is on time, that is completion of the project within a given timeline. Then we have on budget. On budget means we should finish the project without exceeding the particular allotted money or budget whichever they have given, according to specifications. That is, we have to make sure that the product which we are developing should meet all the requirements of all the specifications provided by the stakeholder. So while the traditional matrices are crucial, success in modern project management extends beyond above boundaries. So success cannot be determined on the basis of these three. It is something beyond these. Okay, so we have organizational success, technical success, and personal success. When these three are attained, the star, this depicts the actual success. Okay, so let's look into these key points one by one. So firstly, we have is the organizational success. Organizational success refers to what a project's ability to deliver to a broader organization, often beyond just technical and personal achievements. So it refers to a project's ability to deliver value to the broader organization beyond technical and personal achievements. Then it involves satisfying the stakeholders, achieving business goals, ensuring a positive return on investment. So a company is said to be successful, or an organization is said to be successful when whatever the projects are being allotted to that company or the software firm should be done properly and delivered properly. Only when the customers are happy, we can term that this organization has become successful, or this particular project which they had took up has become successful. Then we have organizational success is crucial because it aligns with the project's outcomes, ensuring with the overall goals of the organization and ensuring that the project contributes to the company's strategic success. So when one project becomes success, it adds up to the goals of organization. Each and every organization have a goal to reach success, right? Each and every organization has a goal to complete a project and deliver it successfully to the user. So when these things are met, they become a stepping stone for the company to reach to extreme heights. So project attributes to the company's strategic success. Looking at the factors that contribute to the organizational successes, the first one we have is value delivery. Value delivery means we should make sure that our project provides more than what it costs, such as increasing the revenue or reducing the cost or enhancing the competitive differentiation and all. Then we have stakeholder satisfaction. Stakeholder satisfaction means we should make sure that the stakeholder is satisfied with whatever output which we have provided to him. So the stakeholders here could be the customers or executives or any other people from the business unit. Then we have adaptability. So the ability of the project to respond to the changing business needs. So these business needs are again dependent on the market value, the market conditions, or any new information which comes up. So we have to consider that and incorporate it in our project life cycle. Then we have technical excellence. Technical excellence provides a high quality, maintainable, scalable, corrective and collaborative software that can evolve with the organization needs. Then we have cost management. That is, we have to efficiently manage the resources. We should not like waste any resources, and the budget also should be taken into consideration. Looking at what is the importance of organizational success, we should focus on the results. That is, senior management and executives prioritize the outcomes of the project over the elegance of the code or satisfaction of the development team. So they are concerned with like delivering of the project to the stakeholder, not with the code or the satisfaction of the team. Then we have impact on decisions. So if a project fails to deliver organizational success, management should have to look into where they have gone wrong. So again, it will impact the decisions of the company itself. Then long-term viability. Long-term viability means the whatever success we have, it ensures that the long-term relevance and viability of a project or the team within a company. So project that consistently deliver value are more likely to receive continuous support and investment from the other stakeholders or the seniors itself. Then moving on further, we have technical excellence and technical success and personal success. So the first one is continuous integration. So we have to regularly integrate the code depending on whatever changes are being given, and these changes have to be incorporated and then tested again. Next, we have test-driven development. So we have we have to write a code before the actual code is deployed. We should make sure that this is tested. Then we have simple software. So simple software is again a key principle of Agile. That is, we have to make sure that whatever software we are designing is simple to understand from stakeholder perspective and from the development or any of the team members perspective. Then we have quality technical solution. So whatever the issue or whatever the project our stakeholder team has come up with, we should make sure that technical excellence is achieved in that particular project. So that is one point. Feature completion. Feature completion is we should make sure that each and every feature gets completed. So as and when each and every feature gets completed, reviewed by the user and accepted by the user, we can say it as technical success. Moving on further, we have personal success. Personal success, again, autonomy and influence. So Agile development empowers team members to make decisions, influencing a project's estimates, schedules, and technical direction. Then we have improved quality. So Agile practices like pair programming, code reviews make sure that the quality of software is maintained or improved for that matter. Then you have stakeholder engagement. So it is very important to engage the stakeholder at initial stages of our Agile development itself. By doing so, the stakeholder engagement. So stakeholder engagement means we should ensure that the stakeholders are involved throughout the project, right from the starting till the ending. So by having them in our project, we can make sure that their requirements and whatever we are working on are both on same pace. Then we have executives and seniors. So from executives and seniors perspective, it again, if their subordinates or the sub team completes a project, for them it is a success. It's a personal success in their particular work experience, right? So because they have managed to get the work done. Then we have users and stakeholders. For user and stakeholder, accessing the particular product without any defects and using it effortlessly can come under personal success. Then we have project manager and developer. For a developer, writing the code without any errors is success, and for project manager, making sure that the particular project or particular functionality is being completed within the stipulated time period is again a success. For testers, success refers to making sure that the code has no errors at all. That is, all the errors have been rectified. So this was about organizational success, personal success, and technical success. This could be asked for 10 marks, guys. Again, this is an important topic to study. Next, moving on further, we have simple design. So creating systems that are adaptable to changing requirements and responsive to the customer needs is what we mainly aim for, right, in our Agile methodology. So primary aim of simple design is to develop a functional system quickly and continuously refine it based on the feature. This is again a iteration which is happening. A continuous integration and development is happening here. So firstly, we have as iterative and incremental development. That is, we make use of short cycles or sprints in order to make sure that the functionality is getting updated and delivered during a regular interval. Then we have focus on features. So it is very important on the feature functionality and what sort of features would be accessed or given and all of that. Then we have customer development and collaboration. So in order to have customer development and collaboration, it is pretty important to have proper communication between the customers and the stakeholders, customers and the development team. So we can make use of user-centric design. So whatever design we come up, no, it should be it should be it should align with. So whatever the changes, whatever the requirements users are telling, and whatever project we are working on, both of these should align with each other. If this is the case, then we can say that customer and development collaboration is happening properly. Then we have flexibility. Only first one we have is adaptability. That is, at the coding stage, if I come and tell this changes has to be done, then it should be incorporated without any extra efforts. Then we have incorporate and feedback. So it could be incorporated without any extra efforts, and then accordingly feedback should be provided by the user. This feedback would be further taken as input, and then we continuously work on it to minimize the risk. Minimization of risk, manageable increments and early detection. So when we are evaluating the design or the requirements, at the initial stages only, whatever the changes have to be done, whatever risks are there are being identified. So later it becomes very easy for us to develop the code. Then manageable increments. Manageable increments is, today I developed the code, tomorrow you told it is not wrong. So in order to develop today's code, I worked for 3 years, and tomorrow I showed you, you told it is wrong. That is, my entire 3 years have been wasted. Instead of that, I can make sure that each and every week we meet and I show you my project. In this case, wherever there is a rectification, in whichever week there is a rectification, you'll let me know and I can work on it to avoid any of the errors happening lately. So this was about the simple design. Next we have is plan of agile model in designing a system. So again, here we have different levels here. So different phases. First one is plan, requirement analysis, design, implementation, testing and development. One thing guys, agile being a theory paper and you need to write a lot in this. Make sure that whichever point or whichever sub points you are writing, if there is any occurrence or any chances of writing them in a flowchart or in any of the like block diagram or any of the visual depictive order, you write it off, because by doing so you can fill the pages, as well as becomes easier for the evaluator to understand that you have studied so and so topic, so you must have written it in the elaborate answer part. Next, moving on further, we have so this is the diagram important. First one we have is planning. So in planning, we discuss about what are the project goals. We set the project goals from different stakeholders' perspective. Here stakeholders could be the business people or the user or anyone. Identifying the users. So it is again very important to identify different sorts of users and then take their feedback, take their requirements into consideration, because each user will come up with the unique point from his or her particular domain. So that's how it works. Then we have stakeholder and roadmap. After taking the requirements, we can come up with a roadmap which will have a detailed execution of how the project will move further. Then we have the requirement analysis. In requirement analysis, we collab with the stakeholder. We do the elicitation, validation, then prioritization, and all these steps. We have studied this in SC. Then we have designing. Designing is once the requirements are clear, we sit and design properly. So designing here includes the prototypes, architecture, and design patterns. So again, we know these things. Prototypes are the examples or the models which you come up. By using of prototypes, it becomes easier for the user to understand whatever we have made progress in the recent days, and then work on it further. Then we have implementation. So in order to perform the implementation after designing, the system's compatibility, the system components integrate with the design, deliverable software align with the requirements. So we need to make sure that the requirements are aligned, and we give a deliverable software, that is working software over excessive documentation. Then we have is the testing. So in testing, we perform rigorous test with compliance with the specification, in order to make sure that if there is any error hiding, that error should be identified, and then we have to work upon solving these errors. Then we have is deployment. So once everything is ready, once I have coded, errors are checked, my next step is to deploy. Deploy means once my project is ready, I gave it to the user and I'll be like, Saku mugitu in munde nan mataadsbida. No, it won't work that way. So whenever, as and when the support and training or the delivery is required by the customer, the development team should make sure that they are always available. So these are the phases of agile model in designing a system. This could be asked for 10 marks again, guys. Moving on further, this topic we have is about the user stories. User stories in Agile. So user stories in Agile are a fundamental aspect in Agile development, software development. It serves a concise description of the features or the functionalities from user's perspective. So considering the user's requirements, we come up with the user stories. So what are the key characteristics of user stories? It has to be user-centric. So we need to make sure that while we are designing the user stories, it should be from the user perspective. That is, we should address all the user-related queries, all the user-related inputs should be taken. Then it has to be simple. The user story which we come up with should be simple in order to understand for the developers as well as the stakeholders. Okay. Next we have is independent. So the user story should not be dependent on any other factors. So solely from a user's perspective, when we are gathering the requirements and analyzing it, we can make sure that we put up a proper description of that particular function. Then it should be negotiable. So when a user tells that I want so and so requirements in certain budget, by understanding that from a developer's perspective it is beyond the budget whichever they have given, in that condition it has to be negotiable. Estimatable. So these requirements should be easy to understand and it should be like we can measure it. Okay, so that's what estimatable refers to. Then contextual means a proper context should be there, a proper requirement, why these requirements have arisen, what are the functionalities, why are these functionalities happening should be there. Valuable means we should check if whatever the requirements the user told or the project which we are working upon is really worthy or not. And we have prioritized. So depending on the user's requirements, whichever he or she has told, we have to prioritize them. That is, for developing a YouTube application, my first, if I've got a particular task to develop a YouTube application, my first priority would be to build up a basic website, right? Rather than looking up into the design part of the website, right? Then we have traceable. So traceable in the sense, so it should be easy for the user as well as the developer to understand that as and when we keep on completing certain tasks, it should be notable. Traceable andre we start from nothing and we reach to completion of project. So whatever activities we perform should align and should be a stepping stone towards the completion of project. Then consistent. So these requirements should not divert from whatever the objectives of the users are, right? So it should stick to whatever the key scenarios are. Then we have acceptance criteria. Again, acceptance criteria refers to the input given by the user is something, but then we have to check if it is really valuable, worthy, viable, and can we accept it in particular given budget or not. So that's what comes under acceptable criteria. Then we have agile testing. Agile testing, we have integrate testing throughout the development life cycle. So we have to make sure that the testing is incorporated throughout the development life cycle. At any stage, if the requirements have to be changed or any error has occurred or any retesting has to be done, it should be done properly or effortlessly. Then we have collaborative approach between developers and testers. So most often due to miscommunication or gap between the testers and developers, there arises problems. Okay, so we have to make sure that such scenarios are avoided and there has to be a collaborative approach between the testers and developers. By making use of pair programming and all, we can make sure that testers and developers are working together in harmony. Then we have integration throughout development life cycle. So as and when we perform any development or refactoring of any functionality, these functionalities have to be integrated with our project life cycle. Once we integrate it, we should be able to test it also. Then we have delivery driven approach. So our main aim is to deliver the particular functionality as and when it completes, as and when it reaches a milestone, rather than reaching its completion, its final stage. If the project has completed 20%, I can give it to the user take his feedback, and then further move. Then we have informal and dynamic. At times the testing can be informal and dynamic. It need not follow a particular structure or the methodology. Okay, it could test anywhere, any situation, anything. So this was about the agile testing intro part. Then we have principles of testing. So principles of agile testing. First one, continuous feedback. That is, as and when the user gives feedbacks, we should incorporate it and then work on it. Then clean code. Clean code is, we should make sure that the code is easy to understand. It is clean and without any, like, there should not be much errors. Okay. Then we have minimal documentation. Instead of excessively documenting and wasting our time there, we should make sure that our project is working properly. It is error free. So being error free is important rather than excessive documentation. And team collaboration. In order to complete a project quickly, team must work together. So team collaboration also plays an important role. Then we have iterative testing. So as and when functionalities are upgraded or refactored, we should iteratively test it. Then we have test-driven development. So again, it is the same. So for a development to happen, we should make sure that as and when the functionalities are upgraded, it has to be developed at the same time. Customer satisfaction. Our utmost priority should be to make sure that the customer's requirements are satisfied. Along with that, the company's standards or the company's objective is also met. Then rapid feedback. So again, feedback from the company, feedback from the stakeholders should be taken in a positive way, and we have to work on it. Right. So these are about the principles of agile testing. Moving on further, we have planned for integrating automated testing tools. So firstly, in order to integrate the automated testing tools, we have to assess the project requirements. So assessing the project requirements means we should identify what are the needs. So depending on the needs, we can design whether actually automation testing is required or not. So if I am writing a triangle program, automation testing is not required there. It can be manually solved, right, using black box techniques. So the criticality, how complex our project is also matters. That is, we are assessing the project requirements. Then establishing a strategy. If at all the project is very critical and very complex, we can move further with testing, making use of automated testing tools. At this time, we have to come up with a strategy. How will we test? That is, we should come up with test coverage goals. What are the test cases we'll be working upon? And then test data management. So yeah, again, the test data, what are the test cases we'll be using? Then we have integrate testing in agile workflow. So this should not be, the automated testing should not be a separate part in the steps, okay, in the phases of development. It should be incorporated in coding part. It should be incorporated in each and every aspect or each and every phase, I would say. So that's what agile testing speaks of, right? Then we have TDD. TDD is test driven development. Again, as and when the development is happening, we should make sure that automated testing is performed upon it. So it is again, it is like if a project has to be developed, then it should be understood that after development, testing also should happen. Then we have regular review and update the test suites. Test suites are a combination of different test cases. So as and when we perform, we have project meetings or iteration demos, we should make sure that whatever the updates are there should be incorporated into the test suites. Then we have monitor, analyze the continuous improvement. So it is again important to monitor, analyze the continuous improvements into our project and work seamlessly to meet all the users' requirements. So this was about planning for integration automation testing. Then we have the road to master the agile practices. In order to master the agile practices, mastering agile requires real world experience with a specific well-defined agile method. Well-defined agile method is either it could be Scrum or XP. XP is recommended for this purpose because it is a comprehensive approach and well documented. So in order to master the agile methodology, firstly we have to understand what are the goals, identify what are the goals, and then move further. So in this stage only there will be confusion at times, because when there's a miscommunication between the stakeholders or the teammates, or between, if there's any personal bias, the goals or the requirements may not be understood properly. At that time, there'll be an error leading, right? And if this is continued, in the later stages, it becomes very complex to work on those or rectify those errors. Then we have evaluate suitability. Evaluate suitability means we should make sure that the method which we are applying or the process which we are applying should be suitable. That is, it should be viable or acceptable. Then we have adopt XP practices. We should make sure that all the XP practices, all the XP methods are incorporated in our project so that we can achieve the main motto of Agile methodology. Then we have follow practices consistently. So once we start working on Agile, and then after a time, if we feel it is very strict or there are a lot of steps to follow, we should not leave it in the middle. We should make sure that we are completing it till the end. And by having consistency throughout the project, it will definitely show good results at the end. Then we have experience and improve. So it is very important to have a real world in-hand experience about the Agile methodology, how it works. Only then we can come up with our further any customizations we can do, or we can improve it further. So this was about the road to master our Agile practices. So in this module, I've tried covering almost all the important questions. So if you look at the important questions, we have covered all the important questions. What do you mean by Agile? Yes. Agile Manifesto? Yes. Different types of success? Yes. Agile development focus on achieving technical success and personal success? Yes. And phases of Agile model? Yes. Principles of Agile testing? Yes. Roles of user stories? Yes. So all these topics have been covered. Along with this, the other important topics from the textbook have also been covered. I'll be uploading this notes in the GDRIVE. Make sure you go through the notes. And one thing, guys, you have to remember these points. Okay. So once you remember these points and underline these points, it becomes easy for you to play with the words and form sentences and fill some content into the page. Okay. So make sure that you remember these points or understand these points. Okay, that's what matters the most. If you have any doubts, do let me know, and I'll be uploading other modules pretty soon. So stay tuned. Thank you.